who the favorites were.
KT Rolster.
Greetings, everybody, and welcome back to another day of the LCK Spring 2019. I'm Valdez. With me is Papa Smithy. I hope you guys can hear us. I know there was no sound in the intro. I hope there's sound now, but we're going to be hopping into some games here. We're almost at the end of LCK Spring. It's week 10. We're halfway through. We're going to be jumping into Hanwha versus KT. Obviously, this one means a lot for KT to try to avoid relegation.
And we had that scenario yesterday, Valdez, where we had one team with really nothing on the line when Damwon Gaming took to the Rift. Meanwhile, the team that wanted it all, Gen G, couldn't find a victory, went down 2-0. So we were wondering what level of performance we would see from the teams who really have a very little stake in this week. They're still going to be playing in the future. There's still things on the line. There's still, of course, careers, given the relegation promotion and the fact that the rosters could change. So because of that, we could still see some very fun matches, and we're still waiting to see some of those new 9.6 picks that we know around the corner.
It's definitely a lot of hype. I know people are talking about it in solo queue. They're talking about it in Academy and NA.
Yeah.
We were just watching Sona Tarek in the bot lane. A lot of things have changed with the new patch, but we are going to have to wait and see if these teams actually do play it here. And as you guys can see, playoffs is decided for the teams that are going to make it. Obviously, some changes can be made to which spot and which place they will finish in. But at least these 5 teams have secured playoffs for now, whereas we're still looking for that second team to go into relegations. Hanwha Life versus KT, going to be the first match of tonight, match number 85. So definitely have come a long way since the beginning of 2019 spring.
But what will happen here is the query, as we're still waiting on sound situation to be resolved. We will keep talking, though. Hopefully the VOD will be in pristine condition. Hanwha Life, you got to say their season's fallen off the rails again, Valdez. How does this happen every year? They can be so convincing to a point, and then you look at the last 10 matches, when the season was there, when they needed to beat teams in and around their level, a 1-2 loss to Damwon Gaming, a 1-2 loss to SKT, and then down to Griffin and Sandbox. Those are the teams that are supplanting them to the top 5, so all they can really say is, well, we didn't deserve it.
Yeah, it's kind of sad when it does come down to it for Hanwha Life, but being 6th place in a league that only has the top 5 teams makes the playoffs really does hurt time and time and again. So really got a feel for Hanwha Life, especially because I felt like as a team they were improving and growing quite a lot, but are not going to be able to show that off in playoffs this time around. But as we mentioned before, KT Rolster desperate to not get 9th place, so a lot on the line for them. They're going to be pulling out all the stops tonight.
And of course, Valdez, whenever Hanwha Life plays, will he show up? And you know who I'm talking about, him. You know that one guy who plays that champion really good. Will he show up? You never know with them because they have that 10-man roster, and sometimes it makes sense, but sometimes we see SoHwan against Noguri and we're like, no, you could have done this better. So they've definitely been creative, but I feel like Hanwha Life have never got the maximum out of what we know is, what, a 15-man roster? They don't have all those players registered, but Hanwha Life like having the big rosters.
So we're taking a look at some of the stats here down at the bottom. I suppose they're trying to get pretty Hanwha against Griffin and Sandbox, they got 1 Dragon, 0 Barons, whereas KT against Kingzone and Jinair got 9 Dragons and 2 Barons. So obviously in recent times, KT feeling a bit better.
But Hanwha Life just basically got slammed last week. That's what you get from this. No Baron control. Only 1 Drake in multiple games is obviously really poor, but they were soundly defeated by teams better than Sandbox and Griffin last week. So we'll see how Hanwha Life pick up the pieces. It's their final game of the season. Unfortunately, the result of the season is a familiar one. They will be marooned on 6th place in the LCK. That does not make it to the off-season. Just get to have an extended break. Even roster-wise, are they going to run this? Strongest roster and just try to pick up a 2-0 victory. Are they going to give some time to players who didn't play very much? We'll find out very short.
Take a look at some of the highlights here. They're only showing Hanwha versus Sandbox because Sandbox let them have a little bit of room in some of these games, where Hanwha did actually look okay in that series, but not quite the one against Griffin, so we don't show those ones. As Kingen comes in up against Jinair. Obviously, we had a really insane series this time, but definitely interesting that Kingen, once again, will be coming out tonight, guys. Not sure if you did hear about that, and I spoiled it before we do get to see their faces, but he will be the one playing. And, of course, this big moment was quite huge. I think you want to take away Yasuo Gragas from KT if possible.
You can definitely find highlights of KT's play in this series, but I know watching on, I wasn't particularly impressed with KT. They didn't look levels above Jinair by any means. Jinair should have won game number 1 especially. That was a game that was very heavily in their favor, and then they kind of conspired to be the main conspirator in their own downfall. So KT have a lot to work on, even with Hanwha Life with nothing to play for and nothing on the line in any way, and KT with everything to play for. You're still unsure if KT will be able to get over the line.
So we take a look at some of the stats here, and while Hanwha Life is in 6th place, Tempt is actually doing quite well for himself this season in terms of stats. Obviously, he was trading some of the games with Lava and all that good stuff, but I mean, those are really great stats. 2nd in 3 categories, 3rd in another. Tempt definitely has quietly had a good stat season so far.
And you actually hear some surprised voices from the Korean casters, because look at this lineup we're going to see. SoHwan and Moojin will be the top side of the roster for Hanwha Life Esports, rounding it out with Tempt, Sangyoon, and Key. So the bot lane stays the same, Valdez, as unfortunately the technical issues appear to still be reigning.
Yeah.
But Hanwha Life, let's introduce them. We're going to do our part. We're speaking even if you can't hear it. And Hanwha Life Esports, they're standing to be counted even if it makes no difference on the standings.
They're going to show up and play on their day. They always have that awesome support from their organization and from just the entire infrastructure around the team. So hopefully they have a bit of fun tonight alongside having some good games, but some more somber faces on the KT side. You'll notice that Kingen is going to be coming in once again. Played a couple of games of Nico the other time around up against Jinair, but we'll have to wait and see if that does remain available in this series, and can he play anything else to a high level and find success, because a lot of the KT top laners have not been able to do that this season.
I think it shows that he will definitely be on the carry side of the coin when it comes to those top laners. And we know there's lots around. You know, the Hecarim, for example, is being played a lot by Cuvée. The Nico is something he's already shown. There's a lot of different picks that we might see Kingen move to. And honestly, Smev, in spite of his reputation, hasn't justified a starting spot either. So I don't mind them giving more time to Kingen. It says a lot about where KT is at. Again, Hanwha Life Esports, really no indication as to why this is their roster and why Moojin, for example, has only played a single game all season despite coming in with a pretty good reputation from his time on the Flash Wars in particular. Sangyoon and Key, the returning members, they've been there the entire season. Meanwhile, KT, score continues. We've seen no Umti since the New Year's break. It's been score the entire time, and he's been a little bit up and down. But who's to say if that's his own performance or some of the tools around him. Gango will return his spot. I think Zenit overall has had the better LCK spring. But Gango's had a couple of pop-offs on Draven, but worryingly, some kind of poor performances on Draven as well. So not even the Draven is his salvation.
Yeah, that definitely is one way to put it. And KT have been in that boat as a team for spring 2019. Some games look okay, and then some games you question whether or not this was the first seed out of Korea for last year, but definitely have a long way to go. They're going to hope to win tonight and not go down to relegation so that they can even stay in LCK, because you don't want to go down and face challenger teams that are actually quite decent, right? KT, also they beat Jin-Air, but it wasn't clean, so it's definitely not a good feel. They'd love to win and just avoid relegations at all and regroup for summer.
There is no giant, I would say, no rookie giant team like Griffin and Damwon have represented in the last two promotion series, but APK Prince, with a lot of names that our fans will be very aware of, are not a bad team, and they're on a huge run of form. And you might take a team that's won 11 matches in a row against weaker opposition than a team that's never found any confidence or rhythm, and you could say that about Gen G, KT, and Afrika Freaks. There is no consistency around these rosters.
Would have to agree, and that will make for a very interesting relegations and promotions as well. It should be a fun tournament when we do get to that after spring, but either way, guys, it is time to hop into game number one. I hope that the sound is eventually going to come back for you Twitch guys, but we're going to hop into this one right now. Also curious about SoHwan and see if he can actually go up into the top side against Kingen. This is not a matchup we get to see too often, so excited to see how it does go down.
And traditionally SoHwan, when he's been a pro player and was the captain of Jin-Air for a couple of years, largely just a tank top player. Started his career as a Ribbon 1 trick, like we talk about with the Shy, but that is so long ago. His Jace is pretty good, and then his tanks. Orin, for example, is my most meaningful champion I remember from him last year. Was a small Orin buff this patch. Do imagine that he will probably be on the dog side of the matchup against King and maybe playing the carry side of the matchup. So I could see an Orin versus Nico matchup, for example, coming through. Hanwha Live see Gango, and there's ban the Draven just to relieve some pressure from Sangyoon. Given that Sangyun's their primary carry, I can understand.
To go ahead and ban the Yasuo, not going to ban out the Gragas. They'll take one piece away from the Yasuo-Gragas combination that we did see in the highlights, and that a lot of different teams are attempting to pilot. It can be pretty reliable if you do land that cast.
Good news, KT coaches have done their research. Moojin has only played Olaf in the LCK. He lost, and now it's banned, damn it. No Olaf for you. Gonna have to show something new. This means that some of those OPs are likely to be left open. Jace, for example, would be the final ban here, maybe left open to SoHwan. And then from there, a lot of the other champions we're talking about, whether it's champions directly in the meta or around the meta, are going to be left open. So I'm very interested to see what KT's two picks on the red side are likely to be here, because it seems like they want to take one of Lissandra, two of, we should say, Lissandra, Urgot, Jace. A lot of picks are left open here. Zoe LeBlanc for some teams. There's a lot of different things available, and maybe KT have a comp that they've practiced pretty extensively, and they just want to leave 4 out of 5 of those picks available.
Jay seems like the obvious choice to pick up. We've been seeing a little bit more of Morgana be picked higher and higher here, as it's pretty good in the mid lane, but with so many other OPs available, as you did mention, Jay's going to go off the board. You would have to imagine Lissandra is an obvious one. What will be the next one?
I think Lissandra Rise would be some team's decision, because then you take away the best mid lane answer to the Lissandra, but you could also just try to find power elsewhere. You can take the strongest possible support, the strongest possible AD carry. Lucian, if you're willing to play the early game well, or if you're looking to play around 2 items, can be powerful. And there's a lot of synergy between Lucian and Lissandra because of when they both spike in terms of their item choices. So far, we got early priority in all 3 selections. Jace, Lissandra, and Lucian off the board.
And you mentioned how Olaf was the one pick for Moojin so far. Looks like we're going to be seeing him play the Jarvan. Don't think it's the return of support Jarvan here or mid Jace or anything like that. So looks like we have our Moojin pick, which is exciting to know what he's going to play in his second LCK game for this split.
Second LCK game ever, right? This is a player who was around the Korean scene but never really made inroads. Famously went over to Red Bull in the Challenger Series in 2017 and played with Tal, and is still with Tal, but amusingly has never been reunited with Tal when it comes to LCK games. They actually haven't played a game together. Maybe game number 2 if Hanwha Life go down in game number 1. The Galio going to be locked first round here. Flex support and mid lane pick. KT just want to get Score, one of his old favorites. He was around for the last Rek'Sai meta. He's around for the new Rek'Sai meta. First round Rek'Sai means you look at KT and you say, at 1 item, what a beast 3 champions they've locked in.
Definitely is feels good actually, if they are able to play that kind of style and get a little bit more aggressive, but Hanwha Life have been more than often at the team that loves to get in your face and down and dirty, so could get a pretty exciting game just from what we're looking at right now. But we are jumping into the second round of bans here. Talia and Aurelia going to be taken off the board.
Feels like Jace will represent a situation that's too intense for someone like Kale to come out in the top lane, and that's too much of a disparity when it comes to laning phase strength there. You really would prefer a melee champion to trade with the Kleptomancy Kale we saw yesterday, but honestly, I'm sure you and I are both biased in a series like this for some new picks, for some new blood, for something like the Sona and Tarek that we saw over in Challengers, so I guess Academy over in North America, and all the other picks, the one-offs that are going around the world. Sylas permanently banned so far in every single game that's been played this week of the LCK. Finally, the return of a champion that's terrorizing solo queue, and I predict will terrorize pro play when it's actually available to be picked. Yorick's going to be banned here, so we're looking for KT to just probably decide on their support at this pick. But it'd be actually pretty surprising to see support held on till final pick here. SnowFlower could have just taken Thresh and they could have gone for the Wife-Steal duo. But it's kind of conspicuous that they're holding on for support for last pick.
It is very strange. We won't have any of those combinations you were mentioning, the weird ones and the new ones with the Sona Tarek or anything like that. But Sangyoon also doing his fair share of trolling and will bring in the Kaisa, which, by the way, surprisingly, pretty low win rate overall here for LCK, below 40% at 39 so far for Spring.
Seems like KT desperately don't want to be hard counterpick bot lane. That's why they selected their flexible top mid lane assassin in Akali, because they wanted full information on the Hanwha Life duo lane. And we do get the confirmation. Seems like, at least based on the hover, they were tempted to throw down the Galio to bot lane. Don't laugh at me like that. I didn't mean it that way. And they're just going to go for Corki. So the front line here is going to be probably Cinderhulk, Jarvan, and support Galio, but otherwise very, very squishy, right? 3 ranged AD carries in one way or the other with Jace, Kaisa, and the Corki. Action on to KT. They did save. Support counterpick to last. They're going to go with the Braum here. You would have understood something like Rakan to give them backline access, right? But they're not going to be going that way. That it's going to go for Lucian Braum. I feel like if you were going Braum, why not just have taken it earlier, right? It's not like Braum is picked for support counterpick reasons. They just go Lucian Braum after all. And I don't feel like KT leveraged the value of red side last pick at all.
Yeah, I mean, they clearly did not, and it's pretty uncommon to see in the LCK. It's even play-by-plays can come in and do their own version of the pick ban analysis and say, oh, they're probably going to save that last pick for the counter pick, but KT not quite doing it this time around.
Because you think about what they learned with the Akali being locked in, they learned 2 more 80 carries. So when you think about, all right, how do I deal with 2 more 80 carries? Well, ability like a Rakan to get in there, right, and engage on them. Instead, it's Braum, who's picked for Lucian Braum laning strength and maybe a little bit of poke denial, right, with the Unbreakable. So it's not like they leverage the extra information for something meaningful, given that actually Hanwha Life revealed a lot about their draft in the second round.
Definitely very interesting stuff. Just about ready to hop into game number 1. Corki, also another pick that we have seen find success in other regions, but in Korea is 1-6 so far. So Tempt trying to raise those stats tonight.
But remind me about the week 10 stat, Valdez. It's 1-0, baby.
Oh,
it's
boy.
Undefeated in all of week 10 in the LCK.
Look at you being a play-by-play. You're doing it so well.
I'm learning it from Riot Stats. That can be in the matchup graphic, baby.
Looks real good, right? Undefeated
in week 10.
And yeah, Hanwha Life are 6th and KT are 9th. So we all know what that means. But we're going to jump into game number 1, guys. Let's see how it all goes down now. Getting the passionate fans here, supporting their team up until week 10. Feels like we've kind of just flown by all the way towards the end of LCK, and we'll eventually get into that playoffs just the week next of this one.
Definitely your first LCK split, whether you're a fan or a caster, feels much longer, but it really purrs along when it's your 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or in my case, I believe it's now my 8th split. Casting the LCK, so 2015 spring. From there, 2 a year, so yeah, we're my 8th split now. Jumping on to Hanwha Life, and it's Moojin's 2nd game only, right? So I'm sure he wants to show something for himself for this season. Only played a single game of Olaf. In fact, worrying sign for Hanwha Life is that SoHwan and Moojin have played 4 games, I believe none of them together, and have no victories between the 2 of them. So both looking for their first match victory. I'm not sure the tournament realm has Corki available. I've already mentioned I would prefer to court Corki. Now, we have the Korean advertisement for the skin line between games. And I'm not saying that for sellout reasons. I'm saying that for something more important as Hanwha Life actually late invade and score. Sadly, we'll have to. Actually, no,
it's going to be a 2-on-2 here as Kingen is Akali at level 1. They're just going to turn onto her and not quite get the kill yet. They don't want to blow any flashes or anything like that, but Smite comes down. Score trying to stay alive here, but he goes down after the flash too. As that 2v2 did not go to plan for KT, but Hanwha off to a great start.
Hanwha Life did everything right at that contest. Late invade into warding to make sure Rek'Sai was not there. KT did literally everything wrong. Look at the enemy 2 champions. They have a Jace. He has more spells than you at level 1.
Yeah.
It's the same as if you see a level 2 spike. You don't try to fight them if you're level 1. Effectively, it was a level 2 champ and a level 1 against 2 level 1s. Doesn't work that way, Valdez.
Look at the follow-up here. 2 scores trying to just jungle and get 1 camp. He's going to get 2 small wolves, but that's it. That's all he's got right now is Moojin and Key off the push in the bottom lane. Going to invade again and take his other buff.
Oh, just so poor in decision-making. And yes, one of those players is Kingen, who's his first split in the LCK. Or second split, I should say, but has played very few games. It's score there as well, and I don't understand why they just didn't give it up. Go find a buff somewhere else. It's not ideal. You did pick a 1-item power spike comp, and you know the comms were, guys, let's get a huge lead early. But that doesn't need to spill over to level 1. You can vertical jungle. You can find something around the map. This is what we mentioned. SoHwan, traditionally a tank-only player, but the one carry and pro play that he's performed on has been the Jace. And remember, 6-2 on Jin Air, mostly in his career, is actually a very good win rate.
That it is, and I feel like he got a bunch of deserved bans towards him once he started to show that ability to play that champion. So not too surprising, but interesting that he gets it here. Remember that the 3rd ban was Tom Kench, so KT deciding, yeah, we're going to be okay with SoHwan's Jace.
I need to return to my sellout point from before. So Corki not available today. I am a noted Corgi aficionado. I had a Welsh Corgi named Rumble when I was in Australia. But what I want to point out is in the Korean advertisement that I believe will be replayed between series, the Korean name for that skin is not Corgi, which I'm not a big fan of. It's not Corgi, that was my idea. It's Welsh Corki, which is so good. Why is that not the English name?
I don't know. That's the other thing. Like, why did they get to decide a new name, essentially?
Because it makes more or less sense, you would imagine, based on the region. I assume it's the same as Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone or Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone having different names.
I mean, they could have just done Korki, right? Like,
but Welsh Korki is just really funny.
Oh yeah,
and quite
I agree.
clever.
It makes sense, but it was just interesting the naming decisions that get decided on between the two regions.
If people are wondering and they're not familiar with dog breeds, it's a Welsh Corgi. Pembroke Welsh Corgi or Cardigan Welsh Corgi is the breed name of the dog. So Welsh Corgi is actually really funny. But no, sadly, not going to happen. Tempt, we, again, assume he can't pick the skin today, so we're going to have to wait for, actually maybe relegations might be the first tournament, because you would imagine playoffs is going to be on 9.6 in every region.
Yeah, you would have to imagine. You see Score coming in here. He was bullied earlier on, and he's really sad to note that after all that, he just, Moojin just went into his own jungle and farmed up all the camps, so Score can't even find anything to steal or really do anything. Just gets a ward down on the Wolves, can't even get a gank up in the top lane. He's kind of just been running around on 4 camps, 16 CS after that early game.
Moojin is so far ahead of him in gold, 500 gold. Ahead of him in the early game, and so many camps ahead as well, right? Consider that at 5 minutes 45, when very few camps have even respawned for the first time, he's 5 camps ahead plus. That includes Scuttles, of course, and I believe Score, who's usually on the inflicting end of removing Scuttle Crabs from the enemy, is the one who's going to be missing out on almost all of them this game. So Moojin, for his only 2nd performance all season, is certainly, and with it, we must admit, a little bit of help from Score, having a nice time out.
Definitely having a good time so far, and the one thing that you'll find in solo queue nowadays, Jarvan is relatively popular, but he's so fast if he gets 1 or 2 takedowns and gets that, it's not the Ravenous Hunter, but the other hunter that makes you really
Relentless
fast.
Hunter.
Relentless Hunter. He will get in your face really quick, and you can see already has the 1 takedown and is relatively fast with just the boot, so he's going to get around the map really fast, be able to farm everything up, and just try to shut down Score at every turn.
I actually think, given the naming convention there, just because we've been speaking about names with the skin names, Relentless Hunter is actually a really, really, it actually fits the word as, well, it's going to go in on Kingen here, but what I mean is, it actually is very iconic of what the rune does, or the choice does, because it allows you to relentlessly pursue people and be everywhere, which is exactly what we're seeing from Jarvan this game. In fact, he's back on the red bus one, but here's VT.
3-on-3, but the spike comes in as Score is going to get the knockup, but it's Aftershock Galio, but Lissandra able to get it first, but low on mana. They're trying to turn onto Kingen here, and the big one is going to shut him down. The 3-man catalyst here from the side of Hanwha, and there it is. Key able to get the follow-up, and Tempt is just trying to auto everybody down. Is going to get the red buff. Should be able to get another kill here on a SnowFlower. There it is. Will be the double kill. And 3 kills in total, actually, going to Tempt.
While KT started off the play being in position, they're still behind Valdez. No fish in a barrel for this Corki. He got 2,000 gold from just killing everyone in the Cataclysm. Warrior Enchant comes out on the Jarvan, so it seems like Moojin's not willing to just go tank and be there with 380 carries. This is a huge injection of gold for someone who has an expensive build. The fact that it's Corki and now might actually get his items ahead of the clock is so scary for KT. We're watching the replay here. The moment that he got disengaged, I really like the decision Moojin made. He doesn't hit level 6 till specifically Kingen goes down, and while his ult is a one-way trip to the Death Chamber, they're all stuck in a spot and no one has an escape.
Tempt just sitting there autoing the entire time with the Gatling gun too.
I know. It's ridiculous. And this is Corki before he had any items.
He had a cull and a ruby crystal. I think those were his items. Get in there, no flash. Nice, nice. Just, you know, standard for LCK, but Yeah, I mean, that's a fantastic fight. You can see now the items that he has, builds up that sheen, and gets really close to that Trinity Force already.
We're going to learn if Tempt's one of my boys, because if he's one of my boys, Valdez, you know what he's going to do? He's going to go Infinity Edge second here and really just pile on the pain. Rapid fire cannon if you're behind. Sure, you want to Zeo and get going. No thrift shopping needed when you're the richest Corki we've seen in ages. Remember that the 300 bounty doesn't include the 300 gold from getting a kill. So this is a 600 bounty pre-10 minutes.
It's, you know, it's the big one already, and he's having a lot of fun there. Moojin, once again, keeping up that relentless hunting of all the objectives and kills, picks up a Cloud Drake.
And I'm fortunate, because I have the foremost package perfectionist here. You are the person who knows all about the Corki passive, so you can definitely tell me what sort of special deliveries we see when that first comes on.
I'm already ready, Papa, don't worry. I'm excited for when he gets that first one. Doesn't look like he is going to have it just yet, but should be up soon. As, yeah, I mean, this is the best feel for Corki. We've seen a lot of Corkis that get behind, and, you know, they have the call, and they just sit there and they try to farm, and they're pretty much useless because they can't get their items, and the enemy team has an early game comp, and they just are able to end the game before Corki does anything. But if you get ahead on Corki, your missiles are going to start chunking people, and that's not necessarily normal. But when you're this far ahead, Corki can be really oppressive to deal with.
And there's even a counterpoint analysis, because what did we say about KT's first round? Damn, these champions are strong at one item. What happens when a Lucian or a Lissandra or a Rek'Sai is behind in items, Valdez? Well, then they don't actually inflict all that one item power spike pain at the times where they need to, and they get outscaled as the game goes on. We know that right now, especially the Rek'Sai, is kind of a warrior enchant and a dream at this point for score. KT are already unable to fight for any map objectives. Can go CS for CS. They do have some nice CS leads, but obviously in the mid lane, that's not going to mean a gold lead for the Lissandra. So given that, outside of Kingen, KT really need to regroup quickly, get vision down. That's what they can still do, is use their one item power spikes and early grouping to get down vision, and find a way to not allow multiple free objectives, specifically this Infernal at 14 minutes, to go to Hanwha Live without a very strong contest from KT.
Imagine 3-0-1 Trinity Force at 15 minutes plus Infernal Corki. I mean, he's just going to be able to Valkyrie into people and start chunking them for half their health immediately. It's going to get pretty fun for Tempt.
He's got some nice shoes as well. So he is certainly really, really big for 11 minutes. Normally, Corki, I remember when I first started playing in 2010, Corki was a mid laner, back before we had 80 carries in the bot lane. And the reason why I bring that up, SnowFlower might walk up here, but the reason why I bring it up is there was some really good analysis of Corki that I read on the League of Legends forum, before there was even a subreddit. And it was, Corki's so pleasant to lane against pre-level 6, you know, he doesn't do a lot of damage, just farming. But then he turns into such a menace when he gets one item and when he actually gets his rockets to level 11. All of that analysis is much more front-ended here. The happy times, the happy farming times are over. This is already a very potent Corki, way earlier than the god of damage we know that Corki can unleash as the items come in.
It's going to be fun for him as, I mean, BDD, normally Lissandra, going to be okay in this lane, especially if it's early, but I'm going to hold that thought as we're dunking onto the bottom lane. There's the Cataclysm straight onto Gango's face as SnowFlower will be able to get out, but a nice combination to pick up a kill for the bottom side.
That was actually really good synergy there. Moojin held on to his ult for a long time as Sangyoon went to the back line. Very well executed. Remember, it is Warrior Jarvan, not so much Cinderhawk Jarvan recently, and that might hurt them later, but it means they're more able to fight earlier. At this point, when they're the ones leading these plays aggressively, well, Kingen hasn't found a spot. Look for solo kills, and we really like Akali when she can hit the Gunblade power spike, but you have to be respectful against Jace early. His base stats are down, so you might kill him easier, but his damage is the same. So for now, at least, we are about 1,500 to 2,000 gold away for Kingen actually arming the Fangs and going in aggressively top.
Galio's engaged, as reliable as ever, as once you get that first taunt, you know he's dead. If he doesn't have the cleanse, as You're looking for that play up in the top side, nearly comes through. SoHwan is going to be able to get away.
Not quite kill pressure yet, but very close to it, right? So Kingen will probably have to be stabilizing impact, and 4-1 is what KT are going to try to play. This is not a 1-3-1 draft, even though it's TP advantage on Lissandra versus Corki, because this Lissandra can't stay in lane against Corki in a long or short lane. As this game has started, that's the cost of the poor decisions in the early game. So because of that, they need to play 4-1 and aggressively find the picks that honestly should be reliable with the champions they've drafted.
Here we go, Infernal is about to spawn, and already so much vision is being denied. There's that one ward that was able to sneak in, but it looks like Moojin, with the help of Key's control ward here, gonna deny it. And there's only that one ward behind the dragon, but that's about to run out of time here. Plus the package on Tempt has been picked up with the blue buff he's about to get. So fantastic timing here for Hanwha to just take it and go.
But this is not contestable by KT. They might try. It is insane to suggest this. We'll watch how that plays out, though. Score's trying something.
Look at BDD trying to do anything to Tempt right now. You just can't even get close, as, just as you mentioned, there was no chance for them to get in.
And you might say, Papa Smith, you told me. It is the one-item power spike team on the side of KT Rolster. They have early spikes everywhere. They want to take over the map early. The problem is, Valdez, this is the 1 out of 40 games where you rock up to the Infernal at 14 minutes, and the Corki has blue buff package, Sorcerer's Shoes Triforce, and level 11.
Yeah.
He is like the strongest possible Corki, and alone, everyone else on KT, in spite of what the champion select dictated, smartly says, all right, Mr. Corki, we cannot do anything to you.
Yeah, I mean, that's why sometimes, you know, in solo queue, there's a lot more kills and crazy stuff that happens, a lot less teamwork. Sometimes the comps don't matter all too much, and the analysis, you can throw it out the window once the mid laner gets 3 kills out of nowhere and people start question marking in your team. So it's definitely that case here for Tempt, who is living the solo queue dream right now in this game against KT.
But what do we learn from Chovy not being able to close out a game where he did a lot of damage? Speedy, he really hates his life.
He does have Aftershock, but it's going to get away with the Glacial Path.
Remember that Corki is an only damage squishy champion who can be popped if Tempt takes a bad pass, so Tempt can definitely be shut down, and 650 gold go to an enemy. And also, as the game goes on, if his frontline dies around him, and his frontline is super squishy, Warrior Jarvan and a support Galio, there's also the chance that he won't be able to solo carry. So Corki, yes, the damage will be there, we know that, but will there be a position to actually maximize that damage? For now, it seems like the answer will be yes at every quadrant, but there will be a time where if he takes the wrong path, the equation can change for KT Rolster.
Yeah, that definitely is the kind of way for KT to get back in this game, take a wonky fight and somehow assassinate Corki and just remove so much gold from the fight. As you can see, he's already up to 7,600 in this one. Tempted gank up on the top side by SnowFlower and Score. You know, trying to play around Kingen, who has been finding some success in the lane, but not quite able to lock him down.
Kingen doesn't have the item point we were talking about to actually allow him to go in aggressively. So I imagine next shop is going to be the Gunblade timing, and this might be the time to start rotating around. Put 2 people in his lane so that he no longer has someone to feast upon. Lane assignment's going to be a lot more flexible with Hun Life. They have the tempo control of this game in spite of the draft. Because of all the early kills on Corki, they can roam fast around the map, and they got bot lane turrets. So right now, KT are only accepting minion waves, and they're going to be second to most rotations and likely lose some creeps to turrets while they try to get the lane assignments they want.
So funny to watch Moojin running around the map right now with all the takedowns he has and the Cloud Drake even. This guy is quite fast, and he only has the brown bags. He hasn't even completed his level 2 boots yet, so.
Does he have 5 or 4 stacks of the Relentless Honey? Definitely has 4 because of the play around the Rift Herald, right? Earlier in the game.
Did he kill Kingen, though?
That's the one thing. So. I think he has 4 stacks, so he's still super quick.
Actually, no, they killed Score up at the top side, so.
I think it's 4 stacks. Could be wrong on that. It's at least 3, obviously, because we saw the kills come in, but I believe it's 4.
Well, Kingen was in that fight at the Rift Herald, right? So.
I mean, he has 100% kill participation, and everyone's died, so we know it's 5 stacks.
Yeah.
That's the math play there. So he's just super fast, Valdez. He's relentless in how fast he can get around the map. Just like if you play Karthus jungle and there's a random level 1 Fiesta and you get 5 stacks of Ultimate Hunter and you're like, oh, my ultimate cooldown's not 8 minutes. It's not actually 8 minutes, but it feels like 8 minutes.
Yeah. It's, yeah, definitely good times when you make that happen, as KT carefully taking their red buff, not even sure if it's theirs yet in this game, especially after Tier 2 top was taken down here by Hanwha.
They performed the correct red buff take, which is not something you usually have to say at 19 minutes, but the correct red buff take is 3 people invading their own jungle to take their own red. If you go any less than that, you could just be picked. Yes, maybe they're not there and you get it, but it's actually incorrect. This is the correct way for them to go. But it shows you how far behind they are in map control when you have to invest that many resources to get your own damn red buff.
Yeah, certainly is a bad feel for them, but they're playing it correctly. Will they play correctly around this Mountain Drake is the next question. Do they have the ability with their own 1-item power spikes to actually fight here for the Mountain is the next question.
And the fire cannon is done on Corky. Kai'Sa teleporting into mid. There's definitely not going to be any free lunches for KT, but they do, like you say, they have invested a lot of time into getting the vision here, and they have good pick CC. They're going to threaten something, but can they actually take the fight if Hanwha Live choose to bring it on?
Corky really fast on the minimap, can already tell he's got that package. Here he comes. Gonna be getting to pick him out, and oh, it's gonna be stolen by Moojin as the stopwatch will come in. BDD just gonna survive with the aftershock, but Rek'Sai has to ult to survive, but already 2 have gone down as Sangyoon has all the room in the world. And just look at Tempt alongside Sangyoon just chomping him down. Triple kill. Gonna go the way of Kai'Sa.
KT can talk the talk, but they can't walk the walk, Valdez. They're not strong enough. They can't fight Hanwha Live at these items. And it's past 20 minutes. Hello, Baron. Meet Corky. You won't like him.
Well, they do a lot of damage. The 2 of them, Tempt and Sangyoon, they have been able to get their items. Not enough pressure in the bottom lane even, so Sangyoon's in a good spot. Picks up 3 kills in that last fight.
Moojin actually enters this really late, but he has stasis, and that's important. He can walk up, his smite goes in true, applies the stasis, and then consider that Akali can't actually walk past the threats on the side of Hanwha Live, and that means no one's near Tempt. So guess what he does? He kills people while Kai'Sa can flash in aggressively to clean up as well. Hanwha Live have good mobility in the fights. KT's time has come and gone. Maybe that's actually more of a proclamation about KT as an org rather than KT in just game number 1. Scary to think, Valdez. But our LCK summer winners are now perilously close to relegation, and Gen.G went down 2-0 yesterday, and Hanwha Live, with equally nothing to play for, just like Damwon Gaming, are looking to smack him down in game number 1.
Yeah, you know, when I showed up and I saw the matchup, I was like, well, this could actually go to 3 games, especially because, as we mentioned, Hanwha could just, you know, take a back seat and play a little bit more of a fun game, but they're not playing that at all. They're playing straight to the heart of KT, and KT did not show up from level 1. So very one-sided here in game 1 for sure.
And there's something really positive for Hanwha Live to take away from that. It shows that the players who need to be hungry, SoHwan, Moojin, and Tempt, who were not the starters for this team for great parts of the season, they are hungry. They're showing they want to be playing more and more going forward. So it's nice to see players like SoHwan and Moojin, who, as we mentioned, have played 4 games between the 2 of them, actually show that they want to be playing LCK as much as possible.
Kingen trying to make something happen. Speaking of guys that aren't always starting, but Redemption gonna help out there. Not even sure if he would have won that trade down the level even, as the Baron push continues up in the top side. BDD always threatening and engaged, but it's 3-on-4, scored nearby, but no real way to get in there just yet. But Moojin has taken a little bit of damage, so they're not gonna push on into that inhibitor just yet.
Very much about playing minion waves when it's the first Baron buff, because you get very few stats around a 20-minute Baron. Scale's much heavier. Back-ended to the 40-minute phase. However, the minions, if you're pushing the minion waves enough, are very strong in the early game. And as we know, if the minions are in position, that means Tempt and Sangyoon can rain in the damage. However, showing good respect here. Hanwha Live are not playing like they have a 10,000 gold lead. They're showing respect.
Here we go now as SnowFlower is going to start off that engage, doing a bit of damage here to SoHwan and Moojin, but Galio going to zone them all out, but in goes BDD, is going to be able to pull off his ultimate and score. Does get that damage in the backside, but he's too squishy now. The Cataclysm going to trap everybody else, and it's just going to be the 2-for-1 here for KT, but they will stop that push.
And you understand why Hanwha Life was showing some respect and trepidation. A KT engage draft that is so much reliable engage will punish you the most when the terrain has a defender's advantage, i.e. around an inhibitor turret and an inhibitor. That was just the ability to throw out CC and eventually find a good connection. They get the single kill, 2 kills we should say, but Life Esports will back away, mostly intact. They do not take down the inhibitor, so they will have to return. Bit of a bugged overlay here, so the health bar amusingly is in the air. Tricky to respect all the CC threat, and Moojin being chunked down, remember, squishy Jarvan build. This Jarvan, if you're coming and face checking him, does a lot of damage. If he's trying to help his team siege, not as useful.
See just a desperate Cataclysm at the end there. He's like, well, this is all I can do. I just want to get that damage in. And it actually did help because it trapped the rest of them back and made sure that KT couldn't continue on the chase, and makes things interesting for this next Mountain Drake that's about to spawn. You can see that KT this time around do have some good vision around there. But already recalls coming in. Doesn't look like they want to challenge for that second Mountain, which can be hard to find value, especially when you're behind anyway.
It's notable that Sangyoon has gone Hurricane this game. I would say very confidently, if it was a close game, you would never go Hurricane against how many threats with CC and burst damage there is on the enemy team. This is the prototype of a Phantom Dancer game for an AD carry, but that's the only sign from their play and items that they're snowballing and want to close it out early. They know there's so many carries on Hanwha's side that it's very likely Sangyoon will swoop in and actually get Hurricane bolts up.
Really looking for that opportunity to engage and catch them out at the Dragon, but it does not go the way they planned, as Flash is going to be blown by Moojin, but that's about all they had to expend to get out of that one.
Double Mountain Drake for the last 2 inhibitor turrets they want to return to, and a inner turret in the bot lane. They're just happy to play 2 lanes for now. Hanwha Life flash back up on key.
Look at the damage they do to the turret. They don't even need Baron, just the pushing that comes in, and Tempt and Sangyoon just getting in there. SnowFlower, you gotta be careful, buddy. That's a really fed Corky, as down goes the inhibitor. They're gonna take their first one here, Baron, in about 30 seconds. So just going to take that slice of pie and back away.
Actually get a full recall from Moojin. Hope he's close to some items. I guess they're very bereft of control wards on their side. You could, though, as Hanwha Life, I feel if you're the coach here, you say, remember, guys, you only needed 1 control ward to do the Baron here. You're 100% certain KT hasn't snuck in loads of wards around the pit because they've been so far behind. They're showing respect to a blue trinket timing, allowing Score to burrow over the wall and get a lucky steal. But otherwise, the amount of vision control that KT could do when they're being pushed in from basically every quarter was always going to be very minimal.
Got the nice zoom in there onto the Corky, who did pick up his IE. He might not be Papa's boy, but did eventually pick it up as the 3rd item here, Papa. So
I'm going to be listening to your play-by-play. Oh, hold on.
Hey, trying to burst him down, but BDD is just all alone here. Going to get dunked as...
that was a bit out of sync there, Valdez.
Really out of sync. Not sure what that was.
But I want to hear the adjectives you use to describe how much damage 25-minute or 27-minute Corky will be doing, because I think a lot of the more large adjectives or stronger adjectives might actually be vindicated with how damn strong Tempt is right now.
We'll see what I got in the chamber by the time we get there, but... we'll see if KT even put up a really big fight here, as now BDD down for 15 seconds. Should be back for the Nexus turrets, I suppose. But
you know how I would describe
like
that play from BDD? That was solo Q my team's feeding. And I'm going to try and do it myself.
Yeah. He's trying, you know. It's hard when you're down this much gold, and you find an AD carry who seems to be alone. You got to take some risks, right? So,
speaking of,
Cullen comes out as BDD might be doing it again. Is the 2nd time the charm. As, okay, well, that's going to land. Doesn't look like we're going to go in on that one, as super minions are hitting the Nexus turrets. Okay, as Hanwha going to be pushing on in, going 5v4 in a very wonky fight that nobody actually died in. They still do have Baron though for 2.5 minutes, so the push does continue. And well, that's the big one, straight to the face. You also have the Jace, as just from the poke damage, from this far ahead, Hanwha going to discourage KT quite a lot. Oh! As, what even happened to him? Where did he go? Okay, well, we do have the engage follow-up as they are going to get the stun here onto SoHwan. Kingen just trying to survive in the backside, but he's got to stop watching a dream at this point, as he's going to go down, and Tempt should be at that 1,000 gold bounty at this point, 700, whatever you want to call it. GG is going to go the way of Hanwha, who stomped KT in game 1.
SoHwan and Moojin pick up their first game victory of LCK Spring in the final series at Hanwha has been able to play. It was not until the season was over that we finally saw Moojin brought back into the lineup, and SoHwan also getting a starting spot. But the level 1 here from KT was super abysmal. It was really poor on almost every level. Yes, it was a 2v2, but the moment the vision went down on score, Jace has more spells than you. That's what happens with Nidalee and Jace. They've got that extra spell at level 1, and they just, as it should be, put him in the ground, took the buff. The counter jungling around it was quite inspired. I'd like to see Moojin returning to the reputation that actually made Moojin a respected jungler. Think back to MSI last year, where everyone was saying, wait, who's this Moojin guy? He's so damn good and so damn aggressive. That was the Moojin we saw in game number 1. But KT, to say the House of Cards fell apart quickly would be an understatement. They looked very bereft of ideas, and by the end, BDD was looking for flanks that were just never going to happen, or isolated kills. Nothing is isolated 25 minutes in when you have an IE Corki on the enemy team. This was a really sorry game from KT Rolster.
Yep. Well, that puts it pretty succinctly as to what was going on in the early game there. Not sure what was going on in the heads of KT, but they're going to have to clear out the clouds that they came in with in game number 1 if they want to have a hope in hell, because Hanwha showed up today quite good. They had a plan straight from level 1. You can tell that they're trying their absolute hardest to win every single game, regardless of standing in the LCK or playoffs or any of that. They come in, they respect KT, and with the plan, they were able to, you know, quite nicely just destroy them here. 21,000 damage. 29 minutes will go the way of Tempt on Corki. And
that number isn't cataclysmic, but remember that most of Corki's damage is back-ended because of magic damage crits and the fact that no one can itemize for a 6-item Corki. This was a 29-minute Corki doing 21,000 damage. If this game had gone any longer, which wasn't really possible with how far ahead Hanwha were, the damage numbers would have been super huge, but we're going to throw it to a break and see if KT can find anything for game number 2.
Yeah, KT on blue side could still get invaded at the red. We'll see if Hanwha also has any other plans for KT in game number 2. We'll find out after this break.